Hello, this is Jack Yoest, your business professor, and I want to welcome you to Chapter 2, The Evolution of Management. In 1881, Frederick Taylor won the U.S. National Championship in tennis doubles. I like to think that his discipline in practicing 10,000 repetitions of his tennis stroke was part of the passion that drove him to improve the practice of management. He is the father who gave us scientific management. He's one of the early thought leaders. We'll talk about his work and others in this brief 15-minute or shorter segment. Today, we will look at some learning objectives where we will describe the origins of management practice and its early concepts and influences. We will summarize the 5 classical approaches to management, discuss the 4 contemporary approaches to management, identify modern contributors who have shaped management thought and practices. Origins of management. Around 4000 BC, the Egyptians used plan, organize, lead, and control, the 4 parts of management, to build the Great Pyramids. One pyramid took over 100,000 laborers 20 years to complete. As early as 1100 BC, the Chinese applied the managerial concepts of delegation, cooperation, efficiency, organization, and control. I would add effectiveness. In 500 BC, Sun Tzu discussed the importance of planning and leading in his book, The Art of War, where he said that wars were won, battles were won, even before they started. A big proponent of planning. Around 400 to 350 BC, the Greeks recognized management as a separate art and advocated a scientific approach to work. Around AD 1436, the Venetians standardized production through the use of an assembly line. In 1776, Adam Smith discussed control and the principle of specialization with regard to manufacturing workers. As part of our lecture and conversation on management training, we'll review vocabulary words. We will learn the language of management. And one of those words today that we'll learn in our vocabulary is economies of scale. This is where we gain the reductions in the average cost of a unit of production as the total volume produces increases. And the evolution of management thought. Classical approaches. Systematic management is a classical management approach that attempts to build into operations the specific procedures and processes that would ensure coordination of effort to achieve established goals and plans. Systematic management goals were achieved through careful definition of duties and responsibilities, standardized techniques for performing these duties, specific needs for gathering, handling, transmitting, and analyzing information, cost accounting, wage, and production systems to facilitate internal coordination and communication. Under classical approaches, we have scientific management. It's a classical management approach that applied scientific methods to analyze and determine the one best way to complete production tasks. This was introduced by our athlete, management consultant, Frederick Taylor. Under the 4 principles of scientific management, the first is that management should develop a precise scientific approach to each element of one's work to replace general guidelines. A scientific approach. It sounds a little bit like Moneyball. The second is that management should scientifically select, train, teach, and develop each worker so that the right person has the right job, which sounds like a coaching job. Management should cooperate with workers to ensure that jobs match plans and principles, and management should ensure an appropriate division of work and responsibility between managers and workers, between the managers and the individual contributors. Henry Gantt worked with and became a protege of Frederick Taylor's. Gantt expanded on the piece rate system by suggesting that frontline supervisors should receive a bonus for each of their workers who completed their daily assigned tasks. Gantt is probably best known today for creating the Gantt chart, which helps employees and managers plan projects by task and time to complete those tasks. An interesting aspect of the chart is that it illustrates how some tasks needed to be done during the same time period. This is a simple horizontal bar chart that has task and time. Scientific management. Frank, Lilly, and Gilbreth used motion studies to identify and remove wasteful movements so that workers could be more efficient and productive. Bureaucracy. This is a classical management approach emphasizing a structured, formal network of relations among specialized positions in the organization. These days, the word bureaucracy has a negative connotation, but when it was originally introduced, made popular by Max Weber, according to your text, it had actually some very good aspects where it would set up a framework where nepotism was pulled out of the equation for selecting employees, as we'll see in a second. Characteristics of an effective bureaucracy: set up a division of labor. Authority, where a bureaucracy is set up a chain of command or hierarchy that's well established, that employees are selected and promoted based on their qualifications. This seems redundant to us today, that seems silly to even mention, but 100 years ago, this was not the case necessarily. The employees were not selected and promoted based on qualification. Bureaucracy should have managers as trusted agents, not owners. Might be best to run the organization. And rules and control, which seems to epitomize or summarize what a bureaucracy is today, but impersonal rules should be applied consistently and fairly. Administrative management is a classical management approach that attempted to identify major principles and functions that managers should use to achieve superior organizational performance. Henry Fayol, a mining engineer and an executive, published a book summarizing his management experiences. Fayol identified 5 functions and 14 principles of management. He had the 5 functions of management as plan, organize, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. These days, we've collapsed and combined commanding and coordinating into leading. So plan, organize, lead, and control. Under Fayol's 14 principles of management, he had the division of work, authority, where we would the company would delegate authority along with responsibility. Discipline, make expectations clear and punish violations. Unity of command, where each employee would be assigned only one supervisor. Unity of direction, this is where the employee's efforts should be focused on achieving organizational objectives. Subordination of individual interest to the general interest, where the general interest must dominate, where the boss sets the priorities. Remuneration, money, automatically reward efforts that support the organization's direction. 8. Centralization, determine the relative importance of superior and subordinate roles between the manager and the staffer. Keep communications within the chain of command. Order jobs and materials so that they support the organization's direction. Equity, where there's fair distribution and order to enhance employee commitment. Stability and tenure of personnel. Promote employee loyalty and longevity. Initiative, encourage employees to act on their own in support of the organization's direction. And esprit de corps, unit cohesion. Promote a unity of interest between the employees and management. Administrative management. Bernard published in his landmark book, The Functions of the Executive, in 1938. He outlined the role of the senior executive, which I expect each of students taking this course to reach. He outlined the role of the senior executive, formulating the purpose of the organization, hiring key individuals, and maintaining organizational communications. Mary Parker Follett extended Bernard's work by emphasizing the continually changing situations that managers face. She had 2 key contributions, and the first was the notions that managers desire flexibility, and that there are differences between motivating groups and individuals. Human relations is a classical management approach that attempted to understand and explain how human psychological and social processes interact with the formal aspects of the work situation to influence performance. Human relation proponents argued that managers should stress primary employee welfare, motivation, and communication. Human relations believe that social needs have precedence over economic needs. Abraham Maslow suggested that humans have 5 levels of needs. The most basic needs are the physical needs for food, water, shelter, and the most advanced need is for self-actualization or for personal fulfillment. Maslow argued that people will try to satisfy their lower level needs, then progress upward to the higher level needs. Human relations, the Hawthorne effect. This is where people's reactions to being observed or studied, resulting in superficial rather than meaningful changes in behavior. Socio-technical systems theory. This is an approach to job design that attempts to redesign tasks to optimize operation of a new technology while preserving employees' interpersonal relationships with other aspects of the work. Quantitative management. This is an approach that emphasizes the application of quantitative analysis to managerial decisions and problems. Organizational behavior, or OB in the vocabulary. The OB approach that studies and identifies management activities that promote employee effectiveness by examining the complex and dynamic nature of individual, group, and organizational processes. Under contemporary approaches, we have systems theory. It's a theory stating that an organization is a managed system that changes inputs into outputs. Open system perspective in an organization, where systems theory of inputs of goods and services organizations take in and use to create products or services. Outputs are the products and services organizations create. Under contemporary approaches, the contingency perspective, an approach to the study of management proposing that the managerial strategies, structures, and processes that result in high performance depend on the characteristics or important contingencies or the situation in which they're applied. Contingencies, factors that determine the appropriateness of management functions. And this brings us to the conclusion of our class today. I welcome you to complete the assignment and forward that on to me, and we look forward to the next class. Thank you.